We got the inflation numbers, 8.5%, huge, higher than they've ever been. But don't worry, because they're calling it Putin inflation. So now inflation is Putin's role. And I guess we got a little bit of a free pass. At least the markets recovered ever so slightly when we got the inflation numbers. Bitcoin back above 40,000, but more importantly, you've got the NASDAQ up 1.84%. Today we got a massive show for you. If I tell you massive, there's so much to talk about. We're going to talk about, believe it or not, we're going to talk about Shiba INU. We're going to talk about XRP on the show. Can you believe it? We're talking about Shiba INU. We're going to talk about XRP. We're going to talk about Ethereum. We're going to talk about Avalanche. We've got one of the founders of Avalanche coming on the show today. We're going to talk about the inflation numbers. We're going to show you guys when we think it is safe to buy. Not when we think it is safe to buy, but when one of the biggest game theory trading experts in the world thinks that it's safe to buy. So it's going to be big. It's going to be fast. It's going to be for DGens only. It's going to be for DGens only. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. I don't know. Did we get a free pass today with these inflation numbers? Had they come in over expectations, do you think it could have been a lot worse? I think we got a free pass. I think if we would have got inflation numbers which were over the expected, 8.4, 8.5, 8.6, I think it could have been a lot worse. I think we got a free pass. And that free pass is going to last for at least a month because the Fed meeting is only happening in May. So I think we've got a free pass until May. And then I think the fun and games are going to begin. I'm not joking. We actually are talking about Shiba INU in the show. You'll see for the second time ever in the history of Crypto Banter, we're going to talk about Shiba INU. We are talking about XRP today too. Did you see there was a tweet by Kobe around Coinbase and around how there are certain wallets that trade Coinbase listings before they happen, which means that there's a mole in Coinbase, which is quite bad because Coinbase is a listed company on the stock exchange and it's like a poster child for crypto. And now you've got these people saying, have I had a haircut? I haven't had a haircut. Maybe my hair's fallen out, but I haven't had a haircut. Anyway, welcome back, guys. I'm Crypto Man Run. Second time here today. Now get this. We had a lot of fun earlier on our new channel, Microdose. So what we did on Microdose was we actually went live when the inflation numbers came out. So if you were with us, Microdose is a channel that's made for people like you guys. Time-starved people, can't watch the full show, want 5 minutes of crypto content every now and then. So what we do is we just drop 5 minutes, 6 minutes of crypto content, and we went live as the inflation numbers came out. It was actually quite fun. You can see over here. So you see that. All right, we're here together to watch the inflation numbers and the effect that the inflation numbers are going to have on this market, right? So what you should do is go to Microdose, subscribe to Microdose, because that's where I think the alpha is going to start dropping super quickly. This channel is going to be for the main show. So this is we're going to keep the main show going on this channel. Which is a much longer show with a little bit more thought and opinion, interviews. Today we're interviewing one of the founders of Avalanche. We're interviewing Emin Gün Sirer. I have been wanting to speak to him for a while about Avalanche because, we're in this whole thing about Solana and Luna and Avalanche and the sharing of the treasuries and everything else that's happening. I actually wanted to get Do Kwon on at the same time, but Do Kwon's in Korea, and you can imagine that right now it's about 20 past 12 in Korea, 20 past 12 at night. So I don't think that Do wanted to come on so late, and I don't think it's unfair. What else before we talk about what's supposed to happen? Anything else happening today? Oh, giveaways. Today we are going to be doing, we're not doing Star Launch giveaway. We're going to do Star Launch giveaway tomorrow. Today we're going to be 10xing someone's portfolio. So not only are we going to double someone's portfolio, but today we're going to 10x a portfolio. If you want your portfolio to be 10xed, all you need to do, you need to go to ByBit. You need to sign up with the referral link below in this description. Otherwise, it doesn't count. And then if we call up your portfolio, then we will 10x your portfolio today, up to maximum $10,000. I can't 10x anything. If it's over 1,000, I can't pay more than $10,000. That's just crazy. That would be way too high. All right, let's not waste any more time. What I need you guys to do is I need you to like this. Let's get this content out there. Subscribe to the channel. If you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe to our Microdose channel. Then let's do it. Let's get the show on the road. Let's talk about the inflation numbers or the free pass that we got. Now, I must say, I did expect Bitcoin to react a little bit better. Because the NASDAQ is doing way better. The NASDAQ is up 1.69%. And if this trend in the NASDAQ continues, then you can really see that the NASDAQ is starting to print higher lows, which is a healthy sign. With Bitcoin, it looks slightly different. So obviously, we've still got very much the formation of the higher low, as you can see over here. So if you look at that over there, we're still printing a higher low, but I would have expected a little bit more of a bounce in Bitcoin when we got the inflation numbers. And look, truth be told, they did warn us. They've got this habit of warning us. They warned us last night.
So because of the actions we've taken to address the Putin price hike, we are in a better place than we were last month. But we expect March CPI headline inflation to be extraordinarily elevated due to Putin's price hike. And we expect a large difference between core and headline inflation, reflecting the global disruptions in energy and food markets. So core inflation doesn't include energy and food prices. Headline inflation.
So I love the way they've already named this inflation. They've called it the Putin price hike. They called it the Putin price hike. When in fact, there's no way that this is the Putin price hike, because Putin only attacked Ukraine here. So if you look at this, you can see Putin only invaded Ukraine here. This is the Biden inflation. And now they're blaming this price hike on Putin, which I think we expected. We said yesterday, if you were on the show, we said that that they would blame Russia and the Ukraine invasion. They would blame inflation on that. That's exactly what we're getting. They're calling it the Putin price hike. We were warned before, and as a result of the warning, these were the estimates that that all the financial institutions had. So what we're saying is you should not give your money to Credit Suisse, Morgan Stanley, Citibank, Goldman Sachs, or ING, because they don't know how to forecast things. Barclays is not a bad place to put your money because they got it right. All these guys got it right. And then all Societe Generale, you can put your money there because they're underestimating. So maybe they'll undercharge you in your costs. Possibly. You don't think so? You don't think that they'll undercharge you in your costs? Look, the one thing we got here is we got a recovery in the markets. We got the NASDAQ recovering by 1.54%, which is a very healthy bounce. You've got the Bitcoin dominance also with a recovery. So this red candle was printed when the numbers came out. And what this shows us, the reason why this is so bullish is it gives us the feel that people are more bullish. When the Bitcoin dominance goes down, even though the Bitcoin price is going up, it means that people have a much more risk-on appetite. So as soon as we got the inflation print, we got a risk-on appetite. And I think what we need to look at here, I think the important thing here is to see how Bitcoin is reacting very much like a growth stock. So if you look at the correlation between Bitcoin and the VIX. Now the VIX measures volatility on the traditional market, specifically on the S&P. And what you can see is that these are perfectly correlated, which means that when volatility goes up on the stock markets, Bitcoin goes up. When volatility goes down, Bitcoin goes up, and vice versa. And the reason why that's important is because you can see the correlation between Bitcoin and the growth stocks. So if you look at how the market is pricing crypto right now, you see that Apple, Amazon, Alphabet, look at the correlation between Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the growth stocks. And so it's clear now that Bitcoin is not being priced as a store of value. Bitcoin is being priced very, very, very much as a growth stock. And as a result, for now, we need to for as long as the inflation print came back where it was expected, we can expect there to be calm in the markets, or at least we can expect it to be calm until the FOMC meeting, which happens on the 4th of May. And after this inflation print, which came in around expectations, I think we've now pretty much cemented that regardless of what happens, we're getting a 0.5% interest rate hike. So when that happened, the probability of a 0.5% interest rate hike increased to 87.7%. And for June, the same thing. So if you look at June, 66.7%. So the market is pretty much pricing in 2 interest rate hikes, both of them of 0.5%. And that's pretty much going to happen, I think, between now and the FOMC meeting, which happens on the 4th of May. Not much else can happen, barring one quick thing. And that is that I think today, I think it is at, let's just see what time it is. I think it's at 12:10. Yeah, 12:10 EST. The Fed Vice Chair Brainard is going to be speaking. I think it's going to be broadcast on CNBC, if I'm not mistaken. And remember, last time that this happened, Brainard came out extremely hawkish and extremely aggressive. And so we kind of want to listen to what happens at 12:10 EST when Brainard talks again. If Brainard is hawkish again, then I think the markets may come a little bit down, but I'm not expecting too much. And the reason why I'm not expecting too much is because we know the numbers. We know that the Fed is going to increase by 0.5%. I think that's inevitable. I don't think the Fed's going to be overly hawkish because I don't think that the inflation numbers, there were any surprises in the inflation numbers. I think more interestingly is where the US now ranks on inflation. This is something that not many people are talking about. But I mean, you're talking about the US being certainly in the bottom third of this, or maybe even bottom quarter of the inflation numbers around the world. And, you know, its peers are now Spain, Poland, Mexico. That is where the US is ranking when it comes to inflation. And I must say, I didn't think that I'd live to see a day where United States is classed with Mexico, Spain, Poland, and Brazil, you know, when it comes to inflation. I always thought that we'd see the United States classed with things like, I don't know, Japan and Switzerland and these first world countries. And I think it just shows you how much of a shitcoin the dollar is becoming and how much the purchasing power of the dollar is being reduced. I think what we're also seeing now is that the rate at which inflation is increasing is not dropping. So if you look at from December to Jan, it was up 0.5%. If you look at Jan to Feb, it was up 0.4%. And everyone thought that inflation was coming down, or the rate of change of inflation was coming down. But this time we got an 8.5%. So it's actually going up again. And I think it's going to continue to go up even more, as I said to you guys yesterday, because I think the prices of the commodities since the Russia-Ukraine invasion actually haven't been priced into inflation. I explained this to you yesterday. And I said that this is the commodity prices, and this will only filter into consumer products in probably 2 or 3 months. So I think we're going to get a higher print next month. I think we'll probably get, 9% or 9.1 or 9.2% next month. And the irony is that the White House are treating the world and the US public like idiots. They are insulting their intelligence. I actually tweeted about this earlier today, and I said, the first thing is that they are referring to inflation as Putin inflation. There's no way that the Russia-Ukraine invasion has already filtered into this. And then the worst thing is that they're trying to set this narrative that what they are doing is already working to fend inflation. Listen to this.
What specifically can you point to that has worked to bring down inflation?
Well, there are a number of steps we've taken. If you compare month to month, we've seen inflationary pressure or inflationary numbers go down month to month.
What specifically can you point to that has worked?
I don't know which months. Well, I don't know which months she's looking at, but I haven't seen the inflation numbers come down month to month. I haven't seen the inflation numbers come down month to month at all. In fact, I think it's getting worse and worse and worse. And I think now what we need to be turning our attention to is we need to be turning our attention to a different metric. And that metric is the US 10-year Treasury bond, either the bond or the yield on the bond. And a few weeks ago, 7th of March, this was still under 2%. So the yield on the US Treasury bond was still under 2%. It was 1.7%. Fast forward, call it a month later, and we now have the Treasury bond yielding 2.7%. So the bond yields have gone up, spiked up, and you can see that when that happens, the price of bonds obviously comes down. And that's what people are willing to pay for US government bonds. So you can see that the price has gone down significantly. And Jordi Alexander, now he's been on our show a few times, and he's coming on again onto our show tomorrow. But he says, here's some alpha for you. He says, when you want to know whether you should be buying a risk asset, what you should look at is you should look at the correlation between the US 10-year Treasury yield and risk on market. So he now looks at the NASDAQ. And he says that for now, they're both going down. He says, if treasuries are falling with stocks, watch your step. When they finally react to the sell-off and reverse, that's a sign that the market believes that the Fed is going to stop increasing rates. And it's a sign that interest rates are going to start coming down. As you can see, now that they think that the Fed is going to increase rates, you can see that the bond rates or the 10-year Treasury yield rates going up. But when that turns, that is when the market basically says, okay, we submit. We think that the Fed will now slow down on all of this, and this is time to be buying risk on assets. So I think in the next couple of weeks and months, what we need to keep our eyes on, and we'll guide you guys through this because we know it's pretty much a new concept for a lot of people. We'll keep our eye on the 10-year Treasury yield. That's the one that we should be watching. So that's it. So we got the numbers. We got away 8.5%. We got enough. You can kind of say that we got lucky. I don't know, lucky. Could come in at 9%. The markets would have been destroyed. The altcoins would have been destroyed. That's what would have happened, I think. Let's start talking alts. And we'll go through the alts pretty quickly because there's quite a lot of alts to talk about. And remember, today we've got one of the founders of Avalanche, of AVAX. I can see him in the waiting room here today. So let's go through some altcoins. And I think let's start off with the ETH BTC chart. So that ETH BTC chart is holding pretty strong. And this ETH BTC chart is probably a representation of two things. One is how bullish people are on altcoins in general, but that you can kind of get from the Bitcoin dominance chart. So you can kind of get that from this chart. But I think the next part that this chart talks about is how bullish people are about the ETH merge, which is scheduled to happen according to this website, which is called When Merge, which is a great name because it's about the merge and it's when merge. So it's a when merge. And it says that it should happen in about 77 days. So plus minus 77 days, the merge of the proof of work chain and the proof of stake chain may happen. And what we're reading is that progress is being made. And without getting into all the technicals, there are certain things that needed to happen for the merge. And so far, those merge things are happening pretty successfully. And you can see that again. Remember, I keep saying that charts will tell you what's happening before news will tell you what's happening. And the charts are telling you that so far, the merge is on track. And remember, let's go back to the other chart, which is the Goldman Sachs Commodities Index. This will tell us when I think we're going to get to resolution in the war. And where we are now is if we've had the breakdown, we're having a retest, maybe it'll go back, maybe we'll have a breakdown, and then maybe that will signal that peace is near, that we're getting some kind of peace. So that's Ethereum. Let's talk about some other altcoins. Let's talk about NFTs, because I think NFTs are a huge story. I don't know if you guys saw this story. Very cool story. Very, very, very cool story. It started yesterday with Coinbase saying something is coming. What they didn't mean is when they said something is coming, they didn't mean that someone was going to front run the listing of the new coins that they announced. I think they meant something completely different. I think what they meant was this, and that is that Bored Apes are going to Hollywood with a trio of films, which is produced by Coinbase. So the reason why I think this is such big news is because I think we're really seeing the use case of NFTs play into its own, which is amazing. And that is where these NFT holders, because they own the NFT, because they own the rights to the NFTs, because the holders of the NFT, the intellectual property, they will now start getting royalties for films produced using their apes. And it sounds like a big deal. There's three parts to this. They're talking about the first part being premiered in NFT NYC in June, which is, I mean, that's quite soon. And I also read that it's being produced by real Hollywood directors. And it's not only the apes. I think it's also the mutant apes and a couple of Swan said mutant apes will also be receiving the same treatment. So mutant apes are also coming a part of this. Also going to be a part of this. What else? Oh, Circle. Circle raised huge money. Raised $400 million in funding. That's the big part of the announcement. Circle are the company that created the USDC coin. But I think the bigger part of this announcement is if you read into the announcement that BlackRock, I think it's the biggest investment house in the world, they've entered a strategic partnership with Circle, which includes exploring capital markets for USDC. So BlackRock may be exploring capital markets for USDC, which I think is a massive, massive, massive announcement for crypto. And I think everyone's reading into the Circle fundraising announcement, and not enough people are reading into BlackRock, which is where I think all the alpha is. Going back to the Coinbase movie, there are people that are saying, I just negotiated a 1-year deal for my Apes IP and got 7 times what Coinbase is offering. Their terms are trash, be careful, should be a 100K minimum. So you see, this is great because we're getting people, We're getting people really being able to get the value out of their NFTs, the intellectual property out of the NFTs. And the bigger that these franchises become, the more movie producers and any licensees will want to license the IP of these Bored Apes. And that can create a huge, huge, huge movement. So to me, this is one of the most exciting stories in crypto today. Seriously, one of the most exciting stories in crypto today. What else? Oh, let's talk about it. I mean, we have to talk about it. Okay, let's just talk about it quickly for 1 minute and just get it out the way. Shiba Inu. It's the first and last time we'll talk about Shiba Inu on the show, but we must talk about it because we have to respect the meme coiners. Up 20% today, and that is on news that Robinhood has integrated Solana, Matic, and Compound into their app. And I think the thing that I was looking at here, which is the difference in the change in token price between a Matic and a Shiba Inu. So you look at Matic or Polygon, that also got integrated today into Robinhood, and their token price is only up 6% on a smaller market cap. So total market cap is $9 billion. And then you look at Shiba Inu, and it's got a $14 billion market cap, and it's up 16% on the announcement. So what that says to me is that Shiba Inu meme token is excited about retail investor, and while tokens that are really developing and building, like Polygon, well, they're not excited about news of a Robinhood integration. That's not enough to get them excited. Not at all. What else? Lots of alpha pouring today. That's the idea. Let's see. Is there anything else I want to talk about? Oh, I don't know if you guys saw this. But USDN, which is the USD stablecoin on Waves, where there's been a whole lot of controversy for the last couple of days, it dipped down to 0.78 on a stablecoin. Can you believe it? It dipped down to 0.78. And it just shows you how scary these stablecoins are unless you actually have real network effect, real ecosystems behind you, and maybe even a Bitcoin treasury behind you. So, I think the chances of a UST going down to 0.77 are very, very, very low in the absence of some kind of catastrophe at the moment. But you see, USDN went down to 0.77. Can you believe it?
Happened before to UST?
It did happen to UST before. It happened to UST, I think, around May last year, and that's before they had such big network effect. And I think now we're seeing the advantages of having network effect and the advantages of having a treasury behind you. And even more so, the advantage of having a treasury which is backed by Bitcoin. So that's one of the other things that that we can see. And if you were watching the peg of UST today, UST doesn't lose its peg. Come hell or high water, it's holding its peg. Anything else? Or can I bring on the man of the moment, the man of the hour?
We want a Stargate update.
You want a Stargate update? Okay, you'll get a Stargate update. You may be upset with me. You may all be upset with me, but you will get a Stargate update. Okay, so you will get it. I promise you, you're all getting a Stargate update. I can see everyone here is degenning into Stargate. Everyone here is degenning into Stargate. You should be degenning into Avalanche, not Stargate. Stargate is just the DEX. Avalanche is where the real action is happening. Am I right?
Absolutely, Rand. That's exactly right. Stargate is wonderful tech. We use it. It bridges into us, but it's one of many bridges. We have a bridge that's even cheaper. You know, it's lovely tech. We love it, but it's just one little component. Avalanche is where the action is.
You know, I mean, you actually started this, not me. So before we actually talk about Avalanche, I want to talk to you for 2 seconds about bridges. The concerns around bridges and whether Stargate actually solves this. So Vitalik very famously went out and said the future is a multi-chain future, not a cross-chain future. And he said this because he was concerned about bridges being hacked. And if bridges get hacked, then we'll be in the same situation where we are today, where if you take all the biggest DeFi hacks that we've had this year, they've all been bridges being hacked. Okay, so I mean, we saw it with Ronin, we saw it with what was the other bridge that was hacked? There was another bridge. I think you all know what it is. What do you think? I mean, does Stargate solve that issue without suspending tokens in mid-chain?
So let's actually clear the air on exactly who called what. We've all been saying that it's going to be I've been saying for a long time that it's going to be a year of bridge wars, and bridges are going to be critical. And I've also been saying that it's a year of bridges and chains. And in fact, there's nothing other than bridges and chains. Layer 2s, the various plasma chains, side chains, etc. These are all different kinds of chains and connecting bridge technologies. Some of them are more secure than others. Some of them are not. Some of them are secure in name only. And at the end of the day, you have to assess the technology underneath you. Now, if we're going to talk about Stargate, it is an interesting technology. It is not as cheap to use as, for example, the SGX bridge that we pioneered, but it is more general. It allows message passing between arbitrary networks. So if you're on an EVM on some chain and you want to get something done far faster, far cheaper on, say, the Avalanche chain, then you can use Stargate to pass a message to a smart contract on the Avalanche chain. So the nice thing about Stargate is that there are other critical bits, and I think it's going to start getting wonky and technical, but Stargate is an interesting technology in that it doesn't mint its own tokens. It relies on liquidity provision on both ends. So that's a different bridge technology. Its liability is limited, but so is its capacity. So that's a trade-off. It's an interesting trade-off. I would say that it's a bit more secure than many others. On the other hand, its capacity is limited, so it could well be that you want to transfer assets with it, and there isn't enough liquidity on the other side. So that's just what it is. But the really interesting thing about Stargate that I happen to love is the fact that underneath it, it has a library that one could repurpose and use in many different configurations. Stargate is just one of them. It's a 2 out of 2 multi-sig bridge, but there are many other configurations that you or I or anybody else can permissionlessly use. So that's a really nice bit of technology. We love the fact that it's on Avalanche and people can just use it.
Is that, when you talk about the technology underneath, you're talking about the layer 0 technology, the layer 0 labs technology?
Yeah, the layer 0 library, exactly. It's a good tech.
Amazing. Well, then let's, now we've got that out the way, let's talk about Avalanche. Now, you guys have had an exciting few months, let's call it. Well, I don't know if you want to call it a few months or long time, but culminating.
Feels like a lifetime, Ren. Feels like a lifetime. I feel like I've aged like multiple decades. But yes, it's been a great run.
So let's talk about some of the highlights. I wanted to come to the conference, but my wife's pregnant, so I'm in the lockdown period. I can't leave the country because my wife's about to have a baby, and I need to be around here. I would have loved to attend the conference. Was watching as many talks as I could at the conference. Was watching some of the announcements. I think one of the biggest announcements that I got from the conference was the bringing native Bitcoin onto the Avalanche chain.
Oh yeah. That's really big, and I'm really thrilled about it. It's one of the things I'm most proud about. Essentially, what we'll allow you to do is take your BTC that you're hodling, wherever you might be hodling it, carry it over to Avalanche, and then put it into DeFi. What that means is everything that's possible with DeFi, borrowing against your BTC, for example, is possible. Suppose you need cash, but you don't want to sell your Bitcoin. Well, you can use it as collateral and borrow against it. And so that's a great new bit of functionality that's going to be open to BTC users.
Now, does that work the same way as WBTC or wrapped BTC, where there is a custodian somewhere which holds the BTC, wraps it into an Avalanche-friendly wrapper, and then either holds it in a centralized custodian or some kind of contract? How does it work exactly?
Great question, and I can't wait to share all the technical details. I'll just answer this one little bit, but I'll try not to go into more detail than that. Short answer is no, there is no custodian. It's all self-custodied. It's all in the Bitcoin ethos. I don't think the Bitcoiners like the idea of having to trust someone to hold their BTC. We've seen time and time again that constitutes a weakness, and we worked really hard to make sure that the amount of trust they need to place in components is minimized. And what, in fact, they can do is take their BTC, go through a process. They end up reusing the exact same key on both chains. So therefore, it's always self-custodied and always under their own control. They don't have to trust another entity.
So they use the same key across Avalanche and the Bitcoin chain, and they do their own custody using the same key. Okay, that's a breakthrough.
It is. This is one of many breakthroughs, Rand. It's not just the Avalanche consensus protocol. It's not just its architecture. It's also the bridge technology that we introduced that is the fastest, cheapest, most convenient bridge ever. And one of the things that allows you to do is exactly this.
I mean, I can take a guess how it works. Tell me if I'm on the right track. Is there some kind of BTC side-chain or something which is very similar to BTC?
No, there isn't. That could work. That's not a bad idea. That would have been approach number 0, the very first idea that we would propose. It's a bit better integrated into our world. But it's a good start. It's a good start, Rand. I'll give you another 15 minutes, and you'll come up with the final. Came up with a very good starting point.
Okay, so I mean, you must know Udi Wertheimer because he's a famous Bitcoiner. And when I first read this, I thought. He said, just finished catching up on all the criminally overhyped announcements at Bitcoin 2022. Amazingly enough, the Bitcoin announcement at the Avalanche Summit a couple of weeks ago was bigger than all of them combined. The future of Bitcoin is multi-chain. I don't know how to take this because he's such a Bitcoin maximalist that he shouldn't be talking about a multi-chain world.
Well, why shouldn't he? I think everybody knows where the action is. We've been saying this for many years, and just hodling your coin forces you to have to miss out on many opportunities. If you hodled Bitcoin, you made money, which is wonderful, but you missed out on making far more money where had you been able to participate in DeFi. So Udi is right. He's very insightful, and he's been right all along.
He's very smart. Udi is very smart. Love him or hate him. All right, let's talk about some other things. I don't even know where to start. There's so much that has been going on in Avalanche since we last spoke. Subnets. I think Subnets was probably another big nuclear bomb that you guys dropped and changed everything, right?
It is. And, when we first mentioned it, when I first came out and said, hey, we have this architecture, people were like, blah, blah, blah. And you know what they do? They start comparing your tangible thing to a whole bunch of fantasy things. And then they get caught up in their own verbiage. There's a bunch of words that are thrown at you, and there's a bunch of properties that people seek that are not really desirable in the final outcome. So finally, we just said, okay, well, screw this. Here is an actual instantiation. Here is an actual subnet. And DeFi Kingdom went out with this first of its kind game on a subnet. And we ended up, there was a period of time when DeFi Kingdoms cleared more transactions per second than Ethereum, while our C-chain did the same thing. So combined, we were doing about twice the transaction capacity of Ethereum with no impact on our fees. So I'm not going to come out here and say Avalanche fees are very low at the moment. They're not. They're higher than their historical average. But you see here that we have the ability to take high load and transfer it to its own chain. and we do it in a nice, elegant fashion with a uniform interface with easy ways of accessing each and every one of these subnets. So there is a nice umbrella under which we can have many different competing games all function at the same time without impacting fees.
Let's talk about fees, because when you talk about high fees, everybody starts to like, whoa, hold on, we hear and we feel Ethereum, and we all have post-traumatic stress disorder from the Ethereum days. And one of the criticisms that I have read, but I don't really understand very well, to be honest, is people say that when the use on the Avalanche network goes high, the fees actually can increase quite high. So two things. One is, when they talk about fees increasing, how much do fees increase? And two, is that a real criticism? Does the network get clogged? Do fees increase the way that Avalanche is structured?
So first of all, let's actually separate out two different arguments. You gotta have dynamic fees. There are chains out there that have flat fees, and those chains are absolutely the worst to use. When you need that chain the most, there is no way of communicating to the world that you have a high value transaction. Everything looks equal. The chain is over capacity. So what it ends up doing is it ends up dropping on the floor a bunch of transactions. You get a lot of people who are upset. You get a bunch of people who are liquidated. You get a bunch of people who've lost their life savings because they could not get their transaction in. So if there is a chain out there that's giving you flat transaction fees, it's broken. Let's first establish that. Now, there is another criticism that's, so what happens on Avalanche? Avalanche is consistently cheaper to use than Ethereum by multiple orders of magnitude. When Ethereum was $500, fees were about $500 for a swap. The cost for a swap on Avalanche was a few dollars. So normally it's about 25 cents to do a regular send on Avalanche. At the moment, it's a little higher. It's a few dollars because we have a bunch of high load games going on, and those games are driving up the fees. And we're working diligently to introduce optimizations that will reduce the impact of those games. And of course, we're shipping many of the games out to their own subnets, which will completely isolate them and free us up and lower the fees again. And there's one last.
To be clear, this is the network is being overused, or not overused, but highly used, because the projects haven't started developing on the most optimal structures, which may actually be just developing your own subnet, which plugs into the mainnet.
Absolutely. The moment they do that, they will take their load and it will be partitioned off. It will be handled by a separate set of nodes, and it will not impact the main chain that's keeping up the C chain, the contract chain on Avalanche. So we saw this with DeFi Kingdom. We ended up doing a huge amount of transactions per second without impacting anybody else in any shape or form, neither in fees nor in performance.
So it's very similar to how the Ronin chain is a side chain, if you want to call it, of Ethereum, right?
Yeah, Ronin is a side chain. It's a very similar idea. So subnets are they're different than side chains, but technically they're different. But the differences I don't want to get into. The bottom line is, when you have too much load, you want to ship it off to another set of nodes entirely. And we actively do this. We have the technology. We've had it for some time. We've been telling the world, and now the alpha is slowly going in through the rather thick, whatever it is, the self-defensive barriers of crypto Twitter, and people are beginning to understand, yeah, this is a realistic way to actually scale.
So the successful subnets, I mean, DeFi Kingdoms was one subnet. Am I right in saying that Crabada is also a subnet and also a successful subnet?
Not yet. We all want them to be, but they ended up going down a little bit of a rat hole in their implementation. So they're a little behind where I would like them to be. They need to be on their own subnet. They're actively working on it. We're actively working with them to make their subnet deployment a success. And we ironed out a whole lot of issues with the DeFi Kingdom subnet deployment. So Crabada is going to happen very soon, and I can't wait for that to happen because it'll shed off 25% of the main load on the C chain, and the fees will go down again.
All right, let's talk about last week's announcement by Do Kwon and the LFG. I must say, I was a little bit shocked. I'm a big holder of Luna. I was one of their first investors. And I was a bit shocked by the announcement. Initially, what I thought to myself was, I'm okay with them backing a stable coin with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin feels like it's the reserve asset, the gold, the whatever you want to call it, of Web3. when you start putting other tokens into the basket, and specifically tokens that are more volatile than Bitcoin, and maybe arguably more volatile than Luna itself, then I'm not really a big fan. But then I may have seen the other side of the coin. And for me, the other side of the coin was saying, look, they bought $200 million worth of tokens, 100 million in the fund that holds the peg, the other 100 million in the ecosystem development fund, which is the TFG. And for me, that is probably a very small investment to form a partnership with Avalanche. And quite honestly, I think they're probably going to use that much in fees on all the amazing protocols that they're going to be building and the side chains that they're going to be building. You guys teased the gaming subchain, which they're going to be building. Tell me the logic and tell me how you saw the investment in AVAX.
Great question. So across the board, there are so many synergies to be had from that combination. So first of all, we happen to love the Luna Terra community. It's breaking ground in a new direction. That direction is increasingly important. So from my perspective, what we have is an increasingly decentralized world. And in such a world, we need increasingly decentralized stable coins. I love my fiat-backed stable coins. We've got Tether, we've got USDC on top of Avalanche natively, but those all have pots of cash. And we've seen that the finance system, the traditional finance system, has been weaponized, and those pots of cash can be usurped, frozen, etc. So they carry certain risks. And in contrast, to UST is a decentralized coin. And from my perspective, it was very, very attractive. Also, I happen to love Doe. I happen to love what he's doing with the technology. On their side, they need to diversify. And you are right that their very first port of call should have been Bitcoin. And it was. They announced $1 billion worth of Bitcoin purchased. They increased it to 3, and they now have plans to go up to 10. And in a very similar fashion, we ended up doing their second port of call was Avalanche. They came to us because Avalanche, like Bitcoin, is a hard-capped asset. You might think it's more volatile. It is. It's empirically so. But it is hard-capped. It is going places. Doe has a great technologist's eye for teams that are they actually embody upside. So I think that investment from their perspective made a lot of sense. And you should see it as the first of a great partnership. The first step is that one. It's a baby step, and it's going to grow from there. And you mentioned some of the things that we're going to do. One of them is developing subnets. And there's a lot more to be had from that partnership in terms of technological development.
Okay. Were you an investor in Luna before the announcements or not?
I generally don't talk about my investments, but the short answer is yes.
Okay, so you actually are talking about your investment.
Oh, come on, Ran. It was but you know, so we didn't front run whatever it was. I didn't do that, but no, Luna happens to be a system that I happen to love to bits, and Doe is somebody that I've watched with great interest, and they're doing great things. Look, the action is where these latest, greatest environmentally sustainable coins are. Everybody is pushing the envelope, and Doe has been at the forefront. And so it's been a great system to use. I've owned UST for a long time as well as Luna.
Okay, and then, I mean, one of the criticisms, we had a show here on Friday, and one of the criticisms against Avalanche was that the tokenomics are very inflationary. You've just mentioned that they are capped, which we know, but is there some concern around very inflationary tokenomics? Why are people...
No, stop, please stop. I want to put an end to this, and I know where this is coming from.
That's why I've got you here. That's why I've got you. I want to hear it from you.
Great. Yes. Let me tell you all about this. There is a very, very complicated set of graphs that Messari put out. And in those graphs, they screwed up. They ended up conflating two things. One is the inflationary nature of the M1 money supply. The other one is the unlock schedule. So those two things are not the same thing at all. And the underlying minting rate, which is the thing that we care about. So the minting rate for Bitcoin is whatever it is. And so there's that. And then there's the rate at which people take their coins out of deep storage. And that's a different thing. And in the Messari numbers, they conflated the two, and they're claiming something like 26% in the first year or whatever. It's all false. Our minting rate is 9.5%. 60% of that stuff goes directly into staking. So our M1 growth rate is about 5.7 to about 6%. And so that, I think, is a very, very good number, especially given that the inflation just came in at 8.5. We're a deflationary coin by every metric. There are locked up coins. Those locked up coins are in different hands. The locking, it ends up unlocking over time. But those people don't necessarily put their money, immediately cash it out. Most people actually keep it staked. And so I think those numbers are highly misleading.
When you talk about unlocked coins, you're talking about early investors and early contributors to the project that have a long release schedule. How long or how aggressive is the release of that schedule? In other words, if people buy the token now, are they going to drown in VC releases and early contributor releases?
No, not at all. So there are two different unlock schedules. There's a 4-year unlock schedule for the people who built the system. And there's a 10-year unlock schedule for the Avalanche Foundation. Much of that number that Messari quoted is coming from the coins in the hands of the Avalanche Foundation. Of course, the foundation is going to hold tokens. Of course, they're going to unlock over time. That foundation is what ensures the longevity of the network and the system. That's what funds the development on it. That's what funds a lot of the exciting business partnerships on top. So we, of course, plan for it. And that money is not going to be used in a haphazard fashion. So the investors or whoever else, people who want to hold AVAX tokens, I don't believe that they have any kind of a risk from somebody coming in and dumping huge amounts of tokens at the time.
I must say, I'm so glad I got you on the show because I got it from your mouth and I got it direct, and it's been amazing. I'm sure the comments will agree that it's been amazing. 30 seconds. What's the thing that you're most excited about for the next 6 months on Avalanche?
There's so many more things coming up. So the new core wallet is going to be amazing. It's going to support many chains other than Avalanche. And it's going to allow this bridging activity that we talked about with Bitcoin. That is the next thing that I'm working towards. Of course, at the same time, we're pushing on subnets, and subnet deployments are coming, and people will finally see that exactly how to do scaling. They will end up seeing that we ended up doing what many other people talk about, but cannot deliver on or execute on. So I'm really excited.
Emin, thank you, brother. It's been amazing. Thank you, my friend. Nice to chat to you.
Always nice to be here.
Fucking love that guy. I mean, direct to the point, debunking all the everything. And I mean, you heard it from the horse's mouth. And you got to be able to differentiate the FUD and people who don't understand from what the founder tells you live right here on Banter. And I'm sure you'll agree with me. No other show would have brought you that many direct questions. I mean, direct questions, direct answers, man. All right, let's do this quickly because I do want to end the show. I did promise I'm going to 10x one portfolio today. Remember how this works. If you have a ByBit account with the Crypto Banter referral link, every day we take 5 accounts and we double them. But today, because it's Tuesday, it's Tuesday today, right? Yeah. So today, because it's Tuesday, we're going to take 1 account and we're going to 10x it only if it's under $1,000. If it's over $1,000, then I'm not doing it. And that doesn't mean I'm not going to take the other accounts. I'm still going to take these accounts over here and I'm still going to 2x or double these accounts. Remember, you can also join us. Just go to open an account with a referral link, deposit money. Okay, remember, line number is 3730, the red line. That red line is going to be 10x'd. How much money is in the red line? Tell us in the comments how much money is in that red line. How much money is in the red line? How much money is in the red line? Line 3730. Oh, people are talking about XRP. Okay, well, we'll talk about XRP. I will talk about XRP. Okay, here it is. Oh, 0. Unbelievable. The guy has 0. Unbelievable. He has 0 in his account. Who does that?
He probably got liquidated.
He maybe got liquidated. He would have had 10, whatever. Anyway, the other 2 accounts are doubled, 155 and 150. Imagine I would have caught this guy over here. I would have had to pay 7,269. I would have had to 10x that. No, I set up to 10,000. Otherwise, I'd be broke. All right, let's talk about XRP. There was a ruling. I think I wrote it down somewhere. I put it in. There we go. So this is what I want to talk about XRP. Ripple case denied the SEC's motion for reconsideration of the deliberate process privilege concerning Hinman's emails, which means that now Ripple does have, or everybody, but including Ripple, has access to Hinman's emails, and that could be huge. And I must say, I'm not the biggest XRP fan. You know that, but I do think that everyone has a purpose on this earth. Like everyone has a purpose on the earth. Carl has a purpose on earth. Sheldon has a purpose. Idan has a purpose. Even James has a purpose on earth. Everyone has a purpose on earth. I think XRP has a purpose on the earth, and the purpose of XRP on the earth is to beat the SEC. That's it. I think that's why. I think XRP was made to beat the SEC. That's why. That's what I think. Anyway, let me leave you with this song today. See you guys again tomorrow. Till then, trade well, my friends. Okay, you can.